This is the Metal Queens podcast. I'm Steve Richards. On this episode of the MQP, it is Cassidy Paris from the land down under. She is a powerhouse performer, a voice for the next generation, and one of the most exciting talents to emerge from the Australian rock scene in recent years. Raised on classic hard rock, mentored by none other than Paul Lane, and inspired by legends. We love Joan Jett, Halestorm, and Avril Lavigne. She's forging her own path with fierce determination and a whole lot of attitude, too. She has a bunch of new singles out: Stronger, Butterfly, and Getting Better. We'll talk about that. She's on Frontiers Music. She's playing the Monsters of Rock cruise next year. Full album coming out in November. A lot going on with Cassidy Paris. Welcome to the Metal Queens podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve. I really appreciate it.
So, I just mentioned you grew up on classic rock. What was music like around your house as a kid?
Oh, I always say that I literally came out of the womb or was in the womb probably listening to classic rock music. My dad, for those people that don't know, my dad is has been in bands his entire my entire upbringing and his entire life basically. So I was really brought up very closely in the scene, in the Melbourne scene in particular. And it was just so much fun growing up, kind of different to other people. And like I was raised a little bit different in terms of music styles. And I really, really appreciate that. My dad has been such a big supporter of me in anything I want to do. And great example of this, and a lot of people say, did he force you to listen to rock music? No, he didn't. My brother is like completely opposite. He will not listen to rock music. And we always say, as a joke, it's the failure of the family. No, but my parents are so supportive and they just wanted me to do what I wanted to do. And it just happened so that I just really loved everything to do with rock music. And I picked up the guitar at the age of about 6 or 7. And I asked to get a little bit more serious with singing lessons when I was probably 10 or 11. So I've really been raised around it. I remember growing up going to Kiss concerts and listening to Dio in the car on the way to school. So yeah, a bit different to most kids, but I loved my upbringing so much.
Speaking of Melbourne, what is the rock scene? I've had a few Australian artists on here on the Metal Queens podcast. What's the rock scene like in Melbourne?
It's so much fun. There's so many cool talents coming out of Australia in general. Like I was speaking about this a couple of days ago on a podcast, and I was saying, when you think Australian rock, you think of AC/DC and, Airborne and bands like that are doing really well out of Australia, but there's so much more to it as well. Like one of my friends is a band called Mystery, and they're doing really well in Japan. I've got another friend that has a band called the Love Bombers, and they're killing it. So there's so many different talents to, get around in Australia. And I feel very lucky because I feel like there are a lot of female fronted talents coming
Yeah.
out of Australia at the moment too, or in general, all over the world. It's really picking up, and that's exciting as a female in the industry as well.
Meeting Paul Lane at the age of 11 must have been life-changing. How did that relationship start, and how has it shaped your growth as an artist?
Oh, so much. I always say Paul is literally a godsend to my family and to the music scene in general. Like, he is literally a rock and roll Mozart. He's one of the most talented musicians I've ever met and the most humble human being ever. And I remember meeting Paul for the first time, and it was just such a fun experience because he's just he loves music so much, and I just really wanted to absorb that so much. And I've done that my entire career with Paul. I try to be a sponge because he knows so much about it. And him and my dad just always drilled into me, you're always learning new things. And I feel very lucky that he took me under his wing and really mentored me and continues to mentor me. So I'm a very grateful girl for Paul.
What do you remember about writing your very first song?
I remember that I actually brought in the CD, to my music class. And I think I said to my dad, I was like, Look, I've written this idea, and I remember I was really young, and we sat down together and we nutted it out a little bit more. I had this idea. I played on guitar, and I think it was called Someday. My dad will correct me. He's got it somewhere on the Mac, and I remember bringing it into class, and people were like, "Did you actually write that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I wrote it with my dad on the weekend," and it was just such a funny experience as well. But I think that I've learned a lot in terms of songwriting over the years, and I'd love to hear that though. I haven't heard it for a while, so and I'm sure some people would love to hear what that's like. And I don't think it would be very good. But no, it was a lot of fun, like growing up in my household, because my dad was so musical and he really encouraged everything I did. So I feel very lucky.
Yeah, you have two EPs under your belt, a debut full-length album. We're
Yeah.
on the eve of the release of your next album. What do those early projects represent for you now?
Um, you know what? I think all artists will agree that it's a stepping stone. Like they're all stepping stones, and I just value every single aspect of my career, whether it was a difficult time or whether it was a really exciting time for me. I really value the experience, and everything is just a learning experience in general. And I feel like with um, Broken Hearted, which was my first EP, and Flirt, I learnt so much. And I think it really was just exciting to put out a physical copy of something. And it was one of my dreams as a little girl to do that. So to be able to get like a physical copy of something that you created and you put your all into was just so exciting. And I remember putting out or even just getting the response when I was signed to the record label for the first time. I was just so buzzed, so buzzed. And Frontiers have been so good to me, so unbelievably good. And just getting that album and holding it in your hands for the first time, it's just a feeling like no other. I can't really explain it. Doing that was so, so much fun.
And Cassidy, when you perform a new song live for the first time, do you think about all the work that went into it?
I don't think I think about it at the time. I am thinking, are they enjoying
Mm,
it? And I love playing things new. I love playing new things live because you get just a special reaction from the audience. And I remember when I was recently on tour in Europe and playing like Butterfly for the first time, it was just insane to see the reaction. And some people already knew the song as well because it had just been released that day and
yeah.
they knew the lyrics back to front. And I was like, how do you know this? It's been released like yesterday, which was wild. It was just such a cool experience to be able to, well, it's been such a cool experience to be able to put out music and then see people's reactions to it and see what they like most as well. The whole thing's a learning experience, and I am just very grateful to be able to play live and connect with people on that level.
Let's talk about some of the new music. How do you approach songwriting? Lyrics first, melody or riff, or does it change each time? And let's talk about this song here, this single, Stronger. What's the story behind that?
Oh, Stronger is a very special song to me, but I'll touch on that the songwriting process a little bit first. Songwriting for me changes every time, like you were saying. There's times where I'll put a little hook into my phone and I'll sing it into my phone or hum it into my phone. There's times where I'll just jot lyrics down, and then when I'm in a session, I'll go back and kind of flick through my lyrics and see what kind of sticks. It just depends, and it depends if you're writing with someone. One of the most like one of the biggest learning experiences I think I had recently was writing with Dragon, who was in a band called Roxas in Australia that did really well over here. And it was just the most fun, but one of the most inspiring writing experiences for me as well. And just nutting things out properly, and that was with this new record, and I hope people love it because we spent so much time like perfecting every little quirk about it. And Stronger was actually a late admission to the album, but I feel so happy, and it felt like the missing piece to this record that I never knew I needed. Um, some people may know I went through a really difficult time earlier this year, and Stronger was the result of that. And I feel like the message really just, I hope people relate to it, and I hope people can listen to this song when they're going through something difficult and think to themselves that you can come back bigger and better and stronger after it. Like personally and mentally, that was a huge thing for me, to try and get myself out of bed after something so drastic happening in my life on a personal and on a professional level.
You've toured all over the UK, the US, Japan, and Europe. Is there a moment on tour that really stands out as unforgettable?
I think playing at Frontiers Fest was pretty cool earlier
Mm.
this year. It was just insane. Actually, even like meeting people after the show. I remember going to our meet and greet and then like standing outside the barrier, and there was this massive like crowd of people around. And I was thinking, oh, who's the next band that's on? They've got a really cool crowd. And these people waiting for us, and it was just so cute. And I think I'll never forget that experience. It was awesome. Everyone was holding New Sensation, and even like some people had stuff from like Flirt, and they had Broken Hearted that they've ordered from back then, which is crazy to me. People wearing T-shirts already right after the show, directly right after the show. So that is a really special moment for me, and I think it's something that I'll never forget.
What is your pre-show ritual, if you do have one?
Mm. I have a few. I'm a little bit of a boring musician. I try to get as much rest as possible. You know, the whole rock and roll image. I live up to that. I feel like in some ways, but in others I don't.
Mm.
I'm definitely not doing a Motley Crue. Put it that way before the shows. But I think that I try to look after myself as much as possible, and I drink like a actually Dragon, who was a huge mentor to me this year in particular. He was like, you have to drink this concoction. And I've always been a ginger girl, and I know that ginger and Manuka honey is so good for your voice. But he was like, you got to drink this ginger, Manuka honey, and lemon brew. And he just lets it sit there. And he made a cup for me. So potent, but it just hit the spot.
Mm.
And as a singer, and if anyone sings or does anything, musical, or, you're an actor or something, you'll know it's so important to look after your voice. And any way I can do that, I'll do that. I will make that brew, and I will let it sit there for hours, and then I'll drink it and I'll enjoy it. And that's part of my ritual.
So it's like at room temperature, it's like ginger and honey.
Ginger and honey and lemon.
Lemon.
And I just let the ginger, actually, like I cut up the ginger really fine and then let it sit in the water, with the Manuka honey, with a little bit of lemon. And I let it sit. Sometimes I let it sit overnight because it's so potent, it gets really potent really quickly. And then I'll drink that. I'll just warm it up on the stove, or I sound like an old lady, warm it
Mm.
up on the stove.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, it definitely is something that I kind of swear by when I'm on tour. Trying to not get sick is a difficult task sometimes when you're meeting people after shows, but I wouldn't change it for the world. So much fun.
The new single is Getting Better. What's the
Yeah.
story behind that song?
I've been describing Getting Better as the missing puzzle piece to Stronger. And I feel like together they really tell my story from my perspective, and they tell the truth. And, I think that's something that I really needed to put out there, because, there was it was such a big thing that happened to me. And I felt like I really needed to put my side of things out there in a professional way. And through music, I was able to do that. And I think people will understand what I'm talking about when they listen to the songs.
You've always carried a strong message in your music, Cassidy, from anti-bullying campaigns to empowering young women. Why is that so important to you?
I think for me, something that I'm learning and have learned over the last couple of years is that Bullying is not something, and this is something that I didn't really understand up until probably this year. Bullying is something that doesn't end in high school. And I was really big on advocating for Metalheads Against Bullying, and I always will be an advocate for that fantastic organization. But after high school, it's still, and it's crazy to me because being a good person is something that, that's it's the most important thing to me in the world. And my intention is to work with good people and to be around good people and good energy. And that's something that just my parents brought me up on, my grandparents brought me up on, and it's just so important. But when I learned that that's not always the case, and you can see that sometimes in the music industry, it's a hard thing to learn as a young girl in the industry. And I think with things like Stronger and with things like Getting Better, I was able to channel it into my music, which has been, I've tried to make it as positive as possible and put it into something positive. But sometimes these situations are really hard and people are in the industry for the wrong reasons, and you find that out the hard way. And people you trust just sometimes they misuse that and they use it against you. And I think that was something that was really hard pill for me to swallow earlier this year. But as I mean, obviously I'm going to reference my song, but I really did come out stronger from the situation, and I can't wait for the future because it's looking really exciting.
Do you feel rock and metal music today, I mean, this being a platform here designed for that, the Metal Queens podcast, is doing
Mm.
enough to support young women artists?
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of really good organizations and a lot of really good people in the scene. And that's something that, specifically when you go through something that is really hard and challenging, I think the rock community is very different in that way. They really do get around people. And I had like an abundance of messages and calls and comments when I went through literally the most difficult period of my life earlier this year, and I can't thank people enough. My record label was amazing. Everyone that was, seeing the situation unfold was really, really great, and I just feel very lucky that I had that. But in the same, also there are people, and I found that out the difficult way, that there are people that aren't going to be supportive of women. And I've spoken about this before, but I literally had like an ex-boyfriend say to me, like, I'm not a fan of female fronted bands.
Mm.
And that's a hard thing to, kind of take in as a female fronted band. And as a female in the music industry, it's quite difficult sometimes. And I think there are a lot of really fun aspects of it, and I think there are a lot of hard aspects to it too. And I know men experience this as well. It's not just females, but I have seen a lot of hard aspects to it.
All right, let's talk touring plans in support of this new album, which is coming out
Yeah.
next month. The full album. Any plans for touring in 2026? Of course, you're going to be on the Monsters of Rock cruise early on
Yeah.
in 26. Some other touring plans, perhaps, Cassidy?
There's so much happening, and I'm so excited. So much of which I can't say much on yet, but maybe by the time this comes out, I'll have a little bit more information to share with everyone. So keep your eyes peeled online.
Yeah.
But there is so much happening behind the scenes at the moment, and I couldn't be more grateful or happy. A lot of people know that we were supposed to do the UK earlier this year. That is happening. I cannot stress that any further. It's definitely happening. I can't wait to see all my favorite Brits in the UK. It's going to be so much fun and a whole new level and energy. We have a lot of other things that I can't say much on yet, but there is touring happening in 2026. It's going to be a big fun year, and I can't wait.
All right, enough said on that. So, yes, touring coming also from Cassidy
Yeah.
Paris. If you could tour or collaborate with any current artist or band, who's on your dream list?
I get this question quite a fair bit, but I don't know, I have a slightly different answer each time. Def Leppard is one of my favorite bands of
Mm.
all time, so it's got to be up there. Um, you know what? I had been listening to this band called The Struts for a couple of years
Oh
now,
yeah.
and they are
Yep.
killing it in the scene. So I'm gonna say them because they're just so super cool. They've got just a fun edge to them, and I love them so much.
All right, we're gonna go into our rapid fire round here. The first album you ever bought, what was it?
I think Halestorm, The Strange Case of.
Mm. Yeah, seeing a Halestorm next week, actually. One art, well, we just mentioned that, the Struts. A go-to song to get you pumped up before a gig. What is it?
Hmm, that's a Def Leppard, pour some sugar on me. That's a bit of a cliche one, but yeah,
Joe Elliott can still bring it.
we
If
can.
you weren't doing music, what would Cassidy Paris be doing?
Cassidy Paris doesn't do anything but music. So that's an odd question. I mean, if we're talking my hobbies, like I am a big active person. I love boxing. I love doing like going walks with my friends and family, walking my dogs. Um, yeah, but I can't imagine my life without music, honestly. It's literally what makes the world go round for me and a lot of people in my life.
All right, Melbourne, UK, or Tokyo? Favorite crowd?
At the moment, UK.
I thought you were going to say that.
Sorry, Melburnians and people from Tokyo. But Japanese fans, I have to say, and Aussies as well. I have such a cool crowd here in Melbourne, so I don't want to make them feel bad in any way because they're so delivering here. But the crowd in Japan is just different and so much fun. They just I remember people bringing like stuffed Snoopy pillows because I love the cartoon Snoopy and my dog's called Snoopy. In Japan, it was cool. I loved it.
Cassidy Paris, thanks so much for joining us today. Your passion, your grit, and your love for rock and roll are honestly contagious. And we can't wait to see you, hopefully, here in the US on
Yeah,
tour
you
next
will.
year.
You
All
will.
right. All right. Well, great. In 2026. And for everyone watching, go check out Cassidy's brand new songs, brand new videos, streaming everywhere, and head to CassidyParis.com for more updates on the tours she's teasing about next year, merch, and everything else. Thanks for tuning
Yeah.
in. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been so much fun.
Thank you. And this is the Metal Queens podcast. Thanks for watching. Like it, share it, subscribe to it, write a review. I'm Steve Richards.